And the goal here is, some of the feedback that I've gotten in previous classes that I've done is that the strategic info is great, but there's not a lot of, like, how do I get started? What do I do to enact any of these best practices? So for TRE, the two classes that I'm doing are basically, how to do e-commerce and based on best practices that we've learned from, the 200 stores on the platform over 5 years, and then how to do the apps based on the best practices that we've learned as well. We have, in both situations, we have a gradient of different deployments. So you have the kind of set it and forget it at one side, and then you have the very active, engaged sort of brand first on the other side. And what we've noticed is the stores with the brand first, hey, what's going on? There's no foundation, there's no framework, there is nothing to compare it to. So when you go, okay, well, what am I supposed to be doing with mobile apps? You kind of don't know. We have enough time and distance and scaled data to get a good idea of what's working and what isn't. So we have 33 stores with individual mobile apps and just over 200,000 end users. And so we've learned quite a bit over the years. My goal here is, this is Joe Friday, for anybody who doesn't know, from 1969. Dragnet was the show, and his saying was, "Just the facts, ma'am." And this is a reminder to me to keep it simple and short, because I tend to ramble. And we're just going to kind of hammer through from the top down. So, what are we looking at, and where do you start to make sense of deploying the app in a way that's going to benefit you and have continuity with what you're doing on the e-commerce side and value that's brought from there. So the first thing, and this sounds kind of silly, but when you look at it from afar, there are a lot of things that are very different than you might expect. So why does the app matter? Why did we create it to begin with? And what benefit might it have? And you guys use the app, so you probably know all of this. But when you think about the running store's presence online, it is very easy to picture yourself inside the store surrounded by products and assume that your prospects and customers that are online in any way, shape, or form are also experiencing that view. But what they're really experiencing is something that looks more like this, which is a million different options for shopping, etc., and differentiating yourself in such a way that someone standing in this infinite parking lot of very strangely shaped food trucks would want to come to yours versus somebody else. And there are a ton of reasons why Run Specialty is individually special versus something like, Brooks Running or any other experience that you might have in the area. But also there is this additional challenge of constant distraction. So when customers come in, a prospect comes in for the very first time and they've never done business with you before, generally speaking, almost universally, the reason that they come in is the fitting process. So they go, I'm pronating, I have plantar fasciitis, and I need to get fit for a shoe, and comes in and goes through the white glove process and has a really excellent experience and says, wow, this is really fantastic, thank you so much. Leaves a 4.5-star Google review, and 55% of those people never return. They never come back to the running store, and colloquially what we know is that they go and shop somewhere else that's a faster path to getting the product later on down the line. And what they come to you for first is not the commodity product, but the expertise that you can offer. That's right. And so when we think about how do you turn those 55% only shop with you once and then never come back into repeat customers, and how do you expose them with all the distractions that are out there to everything that you have to offer that really is the community, the expertise, whether it's races or whether it's the insight that you have, that's really where that differentiating component is. The app itself is Yes, it's a store, but it is a store kind of last. The idea is that the app acts as your town square, meaning that anything that someone who is a repeat customer who knows who you are and wants to engage with you, they can go into the app and get an immediate picture of exactly what's going on today with your store. What's interesting, what does the trail running person have going on this weekend that's noteworthy? Is there a marathon, and what are the marathon results? But, is there anything that you guys suggest we do over the Thanksgiving vacation while everybody's, stuffing their faces to stay in good shape? Whatever it is, this would be the one-stop shop. There's also a means to reach out to these people as well, essentially bypassing all of the distractions. It's very powerful, push notifications, but it can also accidentally be abused and spam people to death, and they turn it off and you lose that path. So we'll talk a little bit about what you want to do to make sure you don't accidentally spam all of your users to death with push notifications. I mentioned this a little bit a few minutes ago, but who is the app for? And this is really important. The way that you're attracting people to your site who have never heard of you before is very different than the way that you want to attract somebody who's done business with you before back to be part of your community and do business with you again. And there's really two pathways that customers can take to be your customers. The first is they've never heard of you before. They do a Google search or a ChatGPT search for probably plantar fasciitis or running store, shoe fitting, something like that. They see you pop up, they click on the link to check out your store. Their identity connects with your identity in some way, and they head in and get their fitting done. And how you market to those people is very different than how you would market to customer two. So customer two is someone who's done business with you before and returns. And most of the time, that return business is connected to something outside of the actual shopping process. So they say, I had a really great experience with the fitting process. I've never been a runner, but I would love to get into running. These people seem like they're the people that could help me do that, or the pub runs, or whatever it is. And so, exposing them to all this other stuff that makes you is a humongous part of having them return, and is also a humongous part of what the app is designed to do. Because even though you're steeped in the culture of your store and events and the brand seeps in through your pores, the outside world doesn't see much of that. And putting it front and center for them in a way that's repeatable and powerful is most of the battle that's very difficult to win. So when we think about this person, okay, calm down. When we think about this person and these things, how do we connect this person who maybe has curiosity about the brand, or doesn't have any idea that there are running clubs or races or anything else out there? How do we connect them to that and make it really, really easy for them to engage it, at their pace, at any point in time, etc. So that's the whole purpose of the app. Now the question is, how do you take the framework that is the app and implement it in such a way that you're maximizing this? And this, if you guys aren't able to come to the eCom class tomorrow afternoon, we'll have the classes on the YouTube channel. Check them out, because this is an extension of eCom, and eCom is an extension of this. They go hand in hand. But essentially, these are like the kind of baseline things to think about to make sure that this is working the best. The first is that the App Store is a search engine. So when you think about what do you want to call your app, how do you want to present your app to the rest of the world, having brand continuity in the naming of the app, in how you present the app to the rest of the world, the artwork that Dave helps with, there should be continuity between those things. If you call your app a different name than you call your store, then you now have the challenge of trying to get people to connect that relationship versus having the same name with your store and your app. It creates a little bit more continuity. So our suggestion is always to extend your store's brand to the app. The second, and you guys probably know this meme, I couldn't find a higher resolution, is keep it simple. And we learned this ourselves, but it's something that I'm sure that you've learned doing the app. It's one thing when you have 5, 10, 20 users. It's a whole different thing when you have 200,000 and you have 2,000 different devices and a myriad of different technical abilities or inabilities. When it comes to making it as easy as possible for them to engage. Oh, I thought there was a chicken back there. I was like, oh, there's the chicken. Got it. So
what do you got for us, Rob?
I know I can't beat the chicken. I can't beat the chicken. But we want to ease the path for them to engage further. A lot of times, and what we've heard from customers is, if they don't have a running background, the running store can be an intimidating place. All these people know what they're doing. I don't know what I'm doing. I feel intimidated. Easing that path into becoming part of the community is always the plan. So if our loyalty program is super duper complicated, or if there's a lot of context required to look at any given individual thing that we're doing, whether that's a pub run or anything else, the likelihood that somebody's going to continue to engage through that curiosity and into action falls. So keeping it as simple as possible will help you survive, especially when it comes to loyalty points. I'm sure you guys know this. When you're dealing with an audit trail across 10,000 people and loyalty points, the simpler it is, the easier it is. If there's some mistake that somebody made, or if there's a misunderstanding that happened with one of the customers, it's much easier to backtrack simple rules than to backtrack something like this. The next piece is incentivizing the behavior that you want to encourage. So there are a million ways to do this. The first is going to depend a lot on your brand and what it is that you're trying to present to the world. So if you do a lot of events and community stuff, pub runs and races and that kind of thing, making those things front and center and very inviting and easy to learn more about is great. And you can do that with both the events piece and the news piece. But when you think about what are the incentives for somebody to open the app back up and do something, money is always a pretty good path. And so part of what is involved in the app is a loyalty program that's automated and is both in-store and online, and they can use the app to cash those loyalty points in at either of those places or a combination of them. So they can even, if they're standing in the store, they can self-service their own loyalty points and you just scan the barcode and that's all there is to it. One of the things that people play around with a lot, especially at the beginning, and something that has emerged as a best practice that I wouldn't have considered until I was told about it, is where you have this sort of stepped value system where you want to encourage people to save their loyalty points before they cash them in. So for example, if I have $1 per point, when if I cash in 100 points, I can get a $5 gift card. It's basically the cash equivalent, which is a 5%, right? If I save up 500, then I get a higher multiple. I get 10%. And then it kind of goes down from here. So by the time I get to 5,000 points, I'm getting a significantly higher percentage multiple return. And what I have to do is spend $5,000 with you to get to that point. So it's kind of a stepped system that encourages repeat purchases so that they can take advantage of the larger loyalty. Now, this is an example. What we've found is the best practice starting tends to be somewhere around a 5% equivalent, 2.5 to 5% equivalent, and then where you want to go from there is completely up to you. You have the ability to set points per dollar that are accumulated, and because it's smashing the data together between the POS and online, it's going to count actual dollars spent regardless of what they're spent on. It's going to give the people, X number of points for X number of dollars that they've spent. We always suggest using one, even though you can change it, just because it makes the math at scale a lot easier. No, go ahead.
Can you accumulate points with other, not just by buying things, like by attending events or by volunteering at a race?
Absolutely.
Structure that?
Yep. So the question was, can you accumulate points in other ways besides just purchases? Absolutely. So we have, I'll show it to you.
sets of friends if they even make them.
Oh, well, I guess I could. There we go. Okay. So if you split it down the middle, you have your mileage accumulation. So you plug in, your Garmin watch or Strava or Apple Fitness or whatever, and any runs, walks, etc. that you do, you get mileage that accumulates here. And you can gamify this, giving people rewards for hitting certain mileage. One of the best practices that I'll talk about a little bit more later is inviting them into the store for some purpose. So, if you've run 500 miles, you're going to get a notification that says that you've passed the 500 mile mark. Come into the store, show us that notification. We'll put you on the 500 miler leaderboard and take a picture for social media. And people eat that stuff up. And it sounds weird for the e-commerce guy to say you should always be encouraging people to come into the store, but when they walk in the front door of the store, the likelihood they're going to spend more with you goes through the roof. So anything that you can do to encourage that in-person experience as much as possible, you're going to be better off. The synced miles, obviously you could just turn on your watch and drive around in the car and accumulate miles forever. And with thousands of users, we decided to make the mileage accumulation different from your point accumulation for loyalty so that people couldn't game the system and steal money from you. So mileage has its own set of rewards that you can create. And then with loyalty, which is these guys here, it is points per dollar spent plus points accumulated for attending events. You set the point value for the event, and then an event can be absolutely anything, and I'll touch on that here in a little bit. So then they cash. It's always been separate. Yep.
And is there a way to make events private, or are they going to show up for everybody?
They'll show up for everybody, but we've looked at the making the events private thing because there's some folks who do like a run club that want to have private events and stuff. So it's definitely a feature on the list, but right now it shows up for everybody. And there's a way around that, but it isn't quite as pretty as it could be. All right. Okay, so the other thing, and I know these are old references. Hopefully you guys get them. I don't know if anybody ever watched Seinfeld, but like they had these like luxurious wide lanes. They have a whole episode about these lanes in New Jersey where you can move a lot. It is a best practice to give yourself and your customers very wide lanes. And what I mean by that is check-in windows for events should be a little more broad than you probably think they should be, because people have problems that you cannot begin to imagine. And if you make them tight, you'll find yourself trying to fix people's stuff because they missed the check-in window by a couple of minutes. GPS, so you have the ability to, when somebody attends an event and they're going to check in, they can check in via GPS, meaning if they're within, a quarter mile, half mile, or mile radius of the address that you've placed the event at, they can click the check-in button to check in. If you're on a brand new iPhone, that's going to work really well, but if you're on a 10-year-old Android or iPhone, I'm not trying to, draw any lines there, it's kind of a hit or miss as to whether the GPS is gonna be accurate enough. You might find that this person's standing right in front of you at the address and they can't check in because their phone isn't getting a good GPS signal. So, the best practice that has emerged there is, by all means, do the GPS check-in, but have a fallback. So have a QR code as an option as well, which is an easy thing to set up on our side. And check-in windows and other things like that give the user a little bit of room to make some mistakes or drag their feet, and it gives you guys a little bit of room to do the same. Just because 600 people who get there 15 minutes late could ruin your day if it's too tight of a window. So this is an error that people make that they don't realize that they make. And I called it just because you can doesn't mean you should. Push notifications are super duper powerful. And most people by default to begin with have push notifications turned on. My suggestion, and the suggestion that I've gotten from the stores who have had a lot of success with this, is turn off all the push notifications except for the rewards level achievements and the miles level achievements, which are individualized for the person, so that you're not accidentally automating, spamming them to death with a bunch of push notifications and not realizing it. It's happened, and the worst thing that could happen is, you accidentally send them you're posting news for the next 3 weeks because you have some downtime and you accidentally send them 45 news post push notifications. They're going to turn it off and they're never going to see a notification again. And it's just, I'm the kind of person that makes those mistakes, and it's just too easy with automation. And since you can't be at the phone of the other person and there isn't like a complete vision of what is happening, you could easily do this. So turn everything off except for the individualized achievements, and then if and when you want to send push notifications, you can schedule them or push them at any given moment in time, completely custom, exactly what you want to send, and you can break it down by group if you want to. So if you want to send a notification just to your run club, or just to folks that attended the marathon a week ago and now you finally have the results up or something like that, you can customize it and you know exactly when and what you're sending about so that you're not spamming them.
What's the benefit of like? 'Cause I usually
And then locally about 300-ish, but there's this gap between where we are today.
They both work great, depending on how you have it set up. So if your news post notifications are on, when you post a news post, it'll send a notification that says, hey, Up and Running has this news post. And so if on this manage notifications, if you toggle that on, then it will automatically send a push notification anytime you post news.
okay, but if that's turned off, it'll just live in the app. But it won't send a notification.
You got it. Yep.
You're saying you shouldn't have it on?
If it's me, I would turn it off and then send the push notification individually. But if you are more trustworthy than me with automation, then you could turn this on and it'll just automatically send with news.
Today, or post every couple days.
Oh yeah, I don't do
Some people will be like, I'm going to do all my posts for the month.
Yeah.
15 news posts.
Oh, and it all goes.
Yeah.
Oh, so if I'm just like manually going in, but you're saying if you schedule news posts, have that on, they're going to send them all at one time.
There are a million ways that you could accidentally send a bunch at one time. That's why I'm
But if
like,
I'm
just
going
don't
in
even worry
and
about
I'm
it.
Scheduling them, and I'm like, I'm going to put a news post today. There's a sale. Otherwise, you want that turned off if I'm scheduling.
Yeah. So when in doubt, this is kind of the conservative approach to keep it between the navigational beacons.
It's very easy to work on a notification.
If I say,
Say that again?
tell me what you know about foster care, 99% of the time people
Control.
Yeah, the notification could be the distance needs run is canceled because it's snowing.
Got it.
Or it could be,
It's more of an
and the truth is that everybody
Yep.
but you can also do them for groups too. So like now you can do tags for like the swim group. You can
and my
message
hope
just
is
them
that
and push
people
them.
would look at foster
Yep.
care
It's a little bit more nuanced.
and look at children in their own
Last
communities and really
And
take
for the groups, do people have to self-select into them?
No.
Nope, you can add them, and it works similarly to the way that you can do like a categorization on the Run Free side. So you can take a group of people and highlight all of them and add them to a group in the customers list. Yes, thank you, tag.
kids are some of the most resilient,
Yep.
capable,
Sorry, what did you say?
incredible kids
You create a
that
map.
have plans
Like in Excel?
never been
No,
watered.
no.
just
Like
put
you
them
go to
in
your
the right
customer
soil
list and Run
with the
Free,
right
and you pick
water,
the customers you
light,
want to add to it, and then you add
on
that
them
tag.
and just watch them
Create
blossom.
any
And
tags
so
you
my
want, which
hope
means
is that
you
I
pick
got
the
you.
name.
kids
Is there a way to
so much beauty and hope for our future.
You
Or
can
do
pull
they
it in.
sync
The government will figure it out.
like our POS?
Right now, they pull it in when they sign up or they shop with you.
Yeah.
It'll pull them in from the POS, but it doesn't pull in everyone.
Yeah.
Because typically you want people to sign up themselves so they can create their password. Because if you can pull them in, you press import.
We've done that with stores before.
They have to create their own password.
So the reason I ask this question is because we have a run club of about 2,000 members that exists only in this totally other database that's not connected to any other database.
Yeah, and you can visit us at nationalmanuals.org and we're on
From-
Yeah. Yep. And or you could say, hey guys, we got this app where everything's managed centrally. Go sign up. This is what you use to check in the Run Club.
QR code to scan or whatever, and they
You
can
got it.
self-
Exactly.
Totally.
We create an account for you. If you don't mind, I'll click forgot password to get it sent to you.
Yeah. And yep. And we have done every combination you can think of. Running Lab wanted their whole group pre-built, so we did that with phone number, and it was basically, his instructions were click forget password and it'll go to your phone number. a little easy, a little more user friendly to have the user go through the process if you give them some small incentive to do it. The other thing is anything can be an event. An event is anything that happens at a time that you want to attach points to, and you can have 0 point events as well. When we zoom out and think about, what's the big picture, what are we trying to accomplish here? We're trying to give the person who opens that app a quick and easy view into everything that makes you and your community a valuable place to exist. And so, if the plantar fasciitis avoidance seminar on Saturday morning is something that contributes to that, then, maybe making it an event where there are points involved would be a good thing. There are a million ways that you can skin the cat as well. So you can, just like here, this was taken right from the app. I put 5,000 points. I forgot to take the 5,000 points off. That's just in the demo. But, you have point values for each, and you can have them recurring. So like for your weekly run, you create it one time, double check that everything's correct, and then you hit recur event, and it happens automatically. And if you need to change the address on a weekly basis or something like that, it makes it very easy.
You can also get really creative with them. We had one store that did a scavenger hunt with them, and used the QR codes and then set them up around town.
Yep, you beat me to it.
Oh, there you go. Sorry.
Yeah, so the giving people a reason to go into the app to do something and to get something out of it, whether it is the validation of working of being a part of your community, like this. I don't know where this Wall of Fame came from. I just Googled Wall of Fame. So, but you reach the 1,000-mile point. You get put on the Wall of Fame. That's something that happens in the store. There's an intimate connection with the identity of the store and your own identity. It's not something that somebody forgets, and they continue to engage. Scavenger hunt was one of the coolest ideas. I think it was Greg at 605 that did it. But they're in South Dakota. They had this huge marathon that happens every year. And there's family members that hang out for hours waiting for their running family member to finish. And so he's like, well, we have this app, let's do a scavenger hunt around town. And basically there were QR codes set up that you could essentially check into the event by scanning the QR code, and each item on the scavenger hunt was an event. And so at the end, it was like 1 point per hitting each of the scavengers, but at the end you have like 25 points. You've gone through this whole process. You've learned a lot about the town, and you have an intimate relationship with 605 Running Company, for example. Adam at Blue Ox Running he's in Eau Claire, Wisconsin, super small little college town. They got a lot of really cool trails in that downtown area where their store is. And I don't know if he still does it, but he has a blue brick that he spray painted that he tapes the QR code to, and he hides it on one of the running trails on the weekend, and he does a Instagram reel, and he's like, I'm hiding the brick, be on the lookout this weekend. And he has a hidden brick check-in that gives you a whole bunch of points for checking in and finding that. So not only are you kind of out there and running, but you're also thinking about Blue Ox when you're doing it. And again, it's just to force that continued connection to distance that potential repeat customer from the commodity and bring them closer to all the things that make you completely unique that they can't get anywhere else.
The second thing is give points for events, 'cause we don't often.
Most do. They do small numbers.
They don't just do it for everyone. Someone comes to it.
I'm pretty sure the run clubs are small. Yeah.
So if they go for a month, they get 20 points, and if it's
Still not.
it's still not even, it's like $1.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yep. Yeah, and most do. Yeah. There's some zero, but for the most part, they assign some value. Not 5,000. That's just for the demo, so that would be troublesome. And you discuss this. The news post. So this is when you open the app. This is what you see. You have your points here where you can go in and self-service them. You have your miles over on the other side. This rewards level, you can customize what that looks like, and each number is a different level, and you can either make it nothing or you can turn that into a game as well. Your events and obviously shopping is part of it. You're perpetually logged into the store, so you can go in, shop, tap twice to use Apple Pay, and you're done, and that's the end of the game. But this store news section here is right at the bottom, right above the fold, and the idea here is at any moment in time, whether you send a push notification or not, at any moment in time when somebody opens up the app, they're going to get a picture of exactly what's going on, as if they walked in the front door and said, hey guys, what's going on? So maybe it's once a week, maybe it's a specific employee that you have that's done something cool or has an interesting thought about a product comparison or something like that. Most stores have really great social media accounts. A lot of the more personalized social media posts could also be repurposed as news posts here, with the idea that I open up my Bull City app and I look in and I'm like, okay, cool, Jim did a post of winter running in North Carolina. I wonder what he's got to say, and you kind of get that. You get an analog for standing in the store and talking shop with folks. It's functionally useful as well, so for posting race results and that kind of thing. I say blog, but blog is kind of an outdated term. It really is just this snapshot view of what's going on.
And you can link within an individual news post to results or whatever.
Totally. Yep. Videos and all kinds of stuff.
And it also, I don't know if you mentioned, but it also lives on the web too. So your website has a copy of it. So for SEO, it's great.
So whatever if we've got the app and the Run Free e-commerce platform, these mirror each other automatically. So if one of our staff members is updating the app, it automatically gets pushed to the website.
It's both.
Or both. Yep.
Totally, in both directions.
You actually have an event URL that they can read about the event and get directions and do all that stuff, and it mirrors whatever you do. It shows up on the
Makes it much easier.
a lot easier.
Yeah, exactly. I kind of rambled back around this, but I think it's important to remember, what is the purpose of the app? What does the person that downloads the app want, ideally? And it is that community connection, that je ne sais pas thing that you can offer that brooksrunning.com could never offer, the differentiator that brings them in the first place, extending that and making it super visible in a very simple way, and creating that repeat customer. So for the e-commerce presentation, I did some keyword research, and it kind of blew my mind, so I wanted to include it here because it really underlines how different the reality is versus what we perceive, because you hand somebody a box of virtual products and a virtual storefront, and the very first thing that every single person's going to do is start arranging the products in the virtual storefront. So it's not very intuitive to think of it as, a place where you want to have a conversation with your prospect and lead them to a buying experience as a final step in that. But for the top 10 stores in the United States, I ran keyword research on what they rank number one for. And I grabbed a couple from a few stores, but what's really interesting is most of these are about run clubs or specific about the store in the area. Reno Running Company somehow is the 30-degree weather champion of the universe. I have no idea how that happened. There's a couple of shoes that show up. Both are reviews, and they're looking for the insight of the experts at the store. And I think the thing to keep in mind here is that, it feels like when you're online, you're mirroring the experience of standing inside the store, because the products are there. It's natural to arrange that stuff, but really the customers that are looking for you, find you, and engage with you, this is really what they're looking for, and the product is a byproduct of this experience being a good experience. And when you think about advertising, when you think about what is it that's going to, start and keep somebody engaged, these things are much less expensive and much more effective than trying to compete for Clifton 9, for example, which on the other was you had to have at least 56,000 page views to compete for number one and spend at least $27,000 in ad revenue. And I'm like, oh no. But it feels very opposite. Even when you're in there doing it and you know all this stuff and you've spent all this time putting this class together, you still start thinking products, and same with the app. The mistake that gets made is somebody buys the app, subscribes, and considers it just a really nifty way to buy stuff. And it is faster and easier to buy things through the app, but it's not that much faster and easier, and that's not where the value is. If you use it to, espouse your ethos and to engage folks through events, then you're going to get a return on investment nearly immediately. But if you kind of set it and leave it and don't touch it and tell people to download it for the loyalty points in the store piece, it's not going to be nearly as effective. One last little tidbit and then I'll shut up. And you know this, and we have different kind of versions of this depending on the needs of the store, but when we get you turned up, our suggestion is always to take a few days to have like a friends and family to get used to what it feels like in the store, because again, it really is about scale. You have lots and lots of people following a process. If you've got the process dialed, you're going to have a better weekend. But part of that is also, how do you introduce the customer to the app and get them to download the app and then want to engage it further on down the line? The two places that we found that are the most effective, and the only places that I've gotten numbers back, so I've gotten between 60 and 80% conversion rates reported back to me for these two places. One is at the fitting bench, which is a single or multiple QR codes for the different platforms, or a single to a page that takes you to both. Like sign up for our app. This is our town center. This is how you find out about everything that we're doing, and you'll get your loyalty points for today's purchase if you sign up now. And also at the checkout, same concept. And depending on the demographics of the people that come in the store, some people will also have like an iPad or something set up on the sign-up page, because an account on the e-com is the same as an account in the app. They are the same thing. So if you have like an older population that may not necessarily be as savvy or get as much out of the apps as the younger population may, you can have them sign up right there on the iPad. They get all the points and all the stuff. You can cash their points in for them, or they can do it online. They're not getting the complete picture that we just talked about here, but you have the option not to eject anybody out of the arena if they want to engage with you in a different way.
For that older customer, is there any functionality that allows you to connect an email so that they're getting email notifications as opposed to app notifications?
Yes. So any notification, the manual push notifications, do they come across as emails? I don't think they do.
The manual push notifications don't, but all the reward stuff does.
Yep.
So when they hit the different levels, say they made a purchase and they hit the next level,
So
they get
they'll
an
get
email about it. And when you're an app customer and they go to the My Account section of your store, there's a whole new thing that shows them all the same stuff in the app. So they can redeem their points there, they can see their purchases and stuff like that. The only thing they can do is check into an app.
Yep.
Themselves, but they don't have
If they're not using the app.
So they're not technically focused, they don't want to. We found it's probably 5 to 10% of customers that are not that want to use the app, but they can still sign up online, or you can have them register and sign them up, and you can redeem points for them too. So you can go to the customer request redeem, it'll copy the code, and you just paste it right in.
Got it.
Yep. Yeah, and just because there is a blindness that you have with apps that you don't have with like a website, for example. The settings that I have on my phone for my app, you as the app host can't tell what those are, so you're sending. Exactly. So you're sending 4,700 notifications out, but maybe 200 of those people have notifications turned off, and there would be no way to know who they are or that's happened. So we send the email as a second way to do it. Same thing goes with any kind of cashing in loyalty points for cash equivalent, we're going to send an email that has that gift card, just like a digital gift card, as well as what happens inside the app. And then I don't know if you guys saw, I know I've sent like 35 different emails recently, sorry about that. But we have a physical gift card option now on the digital gift card builder. So when somebody comes in and onto the site, they want to buy a digital gift card, they can check a box that says, I want a physical copy. It notifies you that they want one and will print out a UPC and number that you can stick on the back of a blank card or something along those lines and send it to them or hand it to them. That process is a little more popular during the holidays than at other times. So we're like, let's get this out the door now, as opposed to having to. Yeah, exactly.
Nope.
It's just there.
Is it live now?
No.
No.
It'll be like a week.
Yeah.
So basically, when they go to do the digital gift card, they put in their amount. There's an extra checkbox to say send me a physical copy.
I was just thinking, shoot, I haven't looked. And it sends like us a notification.
So when you go to when the order pops up, you can go to it and push print. So you print it and
Sure.
But will it notify, like, so obviously we get the gift card notification.
all that's the same.
But will it tell you that they want a physical one?
Yes.
It will.
Often we'll just like delete it 'cause it's just like a gift card, you don't have to do anything.
Correct.
So will, okay.
It will. Yep. And some stores have the barcodes pre-printed on the cards, and they scan it to activate it. Some stores have blanks that they then apply the barcode to. I guess with the laser, I'm not really sure how that works, but if you wanted to, you could either place the sticker over the non-activated barcode and use it that way, or purchase blanks specifically for that purpose if you wanted to do it.
It's already activated because they bought it. So as long as we print that and put it over the existing
It's
card.
already in Rick's.
Yep.
The idea is taken away from having to create the SKUs for two physical gift cards, which aren't really a product anyway. So you have like that work.
Makes the accounting easier, more automated.
They've got a product to buy a $50 one, they can do a $55 one.
Yeah, no, the same with you. They're one of my go-to daily trainers.
Yep. Yep.
And if you're not a label printer, you can just put it on the label sheet in our printer.
Totally. Yeah, we learned a lot about label printers the past couple of weeks. Yeah, before the holiday, before Thanksgiving. Do you guys have any questions so far? Hopefully this was a little bit of a good view to go into some of the more details of we should probably just follow up and I can show you around some of the other pieces.
What would be really helpful is to see the back end of it.
Yep.
What does that look like? How do you navigate in it? How tech savvy do you have to be?
Right.
To figure it out?
Not
Is it?
tech savvy.
If you have a few minutes, I can show you while we're sitting here.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
I'd like to see it.
Cool. Awesome. Well, we will have